Superintendent report.
Okay, enrollment update, we're at 185, it's down one from last month. Calendar update, we are working on as far as the plan for 17-18 with that extra snow day. Ms. Nicholas and I have had some discussions and are working with staff on that to fit at the end of the year in possibly some different ways, so I think we're all covered there. The updated 18-19 calendar, you've got it around, it was on top of your board binders when you got here. That is one that has gone through the staff at the elementary and I think meets or matches what our existing master contract states as far as dates. And I think Mary had some good feedback on that, and I think we are sitting on go for that one at this time. Legislative update. There's a lot going on right now. It's a short session. We've only got another 5 weeks left. They're working on a couple of different things in the pipeline. One, giving us some more flexibility for usage on our LTFM dollars. That's the long-term facilities maintenance. Rolling in some safe schools money to that as well, and expanding some uses there. They're also looking at, there's a fix to the TRA, the teacher retirement, in the pipeline right now, which I think has had pretty round support from all areas. There's an employer portion that is going to increase, but then for certainly the first year, they've got some funds allocated for to cover the employer increase, so it doesn't throw us off this next year if they were to implement that right away. So that is welcome. But then there'll be some additional increase then on the employer cost. Employee cost would go up, I believe it's 0.25% over the next couple of years. And then the cost of living adjustment has been phased down a little bit as well. So everybody has a little bit of buy-in to that one, from the retirees to those paying in, as well as the employers as well. So hopefully we can get something passed there that last year did not, and it's only getting worse. So hopefully they'll be able to get that, at least a stopgap measure in there. A couple of other things, just to carry up a report from our special meeting, when you had passed a proposal to Ada Borup at their regular meeting last week. I did mention to them, I carried forward that proposal. They did have on their agenda superintendent direction discussion. It was a discussion item. And as I had mentioned at the special meeting, it was new information for them. So I did bring that proposal. There was discussion about a 60-40 split. There was discussion, different percentages, whether they'd want to carry it 100%. So they talked about a lot of different things, and they're going to be a special meeting for them next week, where they've got a couple other contracts they need to approve, and I anticipate there'll be an action item next Wednesday at their meeting, and I'll be able to carry and let you know what they discuss from there. Otherwise, Hillsborough, when they had their regular meeting on Thursday last week, I believe they tabled the agreement once again. And so as far as Norman County West is concerned, we have it still approved from February, and it's sitting on the table over in Hillsborough right now. I know that Hillsborough also had approached Climax with the same agreement, the second agreement that they came back to us with, and I know that had failed at Climax's meeting last night. So I think they have countered with the same agreement that they have, which is a 50-50 10-head split. So otherwise, we've had lots of committees that have been meeting. Obviously lots of work to be done. So the building committee met a couple of times. One was more with personnel. I know Michael was here for that one, and then Matt was here. Then last week we had a pretty large slate of folks there on, was that Wednesday? Last week. And there's a lot of questions that have to be discussed. A lot of things that we're covering. One of the things that came up in that meeting was, excuse me, the gym roof here in Halsted. And what's happening, my understanding is the membrane is more or less curling up, and they've got to get that pushed down and locked in. That's how that was described to me. To that end, Robbie has gotten a proposal from Tremco Roofing to complete that work at a cost of $13,297. And the hope there is that that would put a fix on it enough to get it, Robbie was saying, at the committee level, another 3 to 5 years. So it's a kind of a stopgap measure, but without that, it's going to degrade very quickly, and then we have other issues with water. So, and lots of other things. I know Mary, Matt, did you want to speak to anything else from that building committee?
The big one I got out of it was, as a board, we gotta decide on the fuel end of it, how much we wanna fill it up. Was Robbie's big concern was, do we fill it up when it's cheap? And decide to spend that amount of money? I mean, we're still gonna be running heat in there. I think we do, you know, instead of all of a sudden deciding we need it, and they do the most for it, so. Other than that, there was a lot talked about, and it seemed like Brent and Robbie went through a lot of stuff, and well, it was a good meeting, so.
We talked a lot about how to do energy savings too with turning, every room is separate thermostats, so that he is going to lower that temperature enough, but not so far that we have to worry about pipes and things that way. And that'll be a part of his daily routine to do those checks. So Robbie would be primary here first priority here, and beyond that, we'll see where the needs are and hours it takes.
We had done some discussions as far as overall wanting to complete this year before we start to look too far at surplus sales and that kind of thing. There's always going to be time for that, and you know, we want to end of the year strong. So to that end, you know, we're anticipating this building being at least operational to the extent that we're maintaining it properly on the outside and the inside, and we'll work towards those ends.
Another big budget item was he was gonna price out tractors, wasn't he? For snow blowing to take over snow blowing through the school, so we don't have to
Yes.
sub it out. So they're gonna get rid of, I believe, front dead mower and look at getting maybe a
The
tractor.
current mower, and then
Yeah.
getting a front, one where you could do a front mower blower on it.
Blower, so they can save the
They're
cost
gonna
on the
get-
snow blowing for both schools, so.
They're gonna get a
He's
cost
gonna
estimate.
do some pricing on that and see if we want to,
Do we have a trailer available to go from
they have a
site to site?
trailer, unless they got rid of it, but as far as I know, they still got.
He does, Robbie does the mowing
Robbie
down there.
has, yeah.
Yep, separate trailer. Okay. Transportation Committee.
1 second, Shawn.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the weight room was the other one that came up.
Oh, yes, that was a big one. So the weight room was one that if we are going to transition that, there's a lot of talk about that. Moving it from the existing location over near the big gym. And one of those, well, no, I guess the old weight room location, which is right next to the locker rooms there. There would have to be some work done to the inside of that to get that changed out again. I have requested a quote on some different numbers on what it would cost insurance-wise, because obviously that will be a big decision point for us. I would assume at the board level. Whether if the community has access to that through a key fob system to get in, or if it's something that you're maintaining, you know, maybe having a second key fob system to get into that door. So I'm waiting to hear back on the insurance side of that, because that'll probably help make some of those decisions for you. If it's a big no-no, then obviously you wouldn't want to necessarily move those things. So,
Yeah, if you play the insurance thing, if you talk to the insurance and say, hey, you know, we got a maintenance guy in here, It's not empty, okay, cause we're.
Cameras are
maintaining
still
it up, right?
functioning.
You know, everything's good.
No,
Wouldn't your insurance kinda stay the same as what we have currently? For
you
that
know what, it comes
thing?
down to having community access to something like free weights.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, the 21 plus or having an adult there.
Right.
Yeah.
So just what safeguards do we have to have in place to be able to keep those costs where they're rational and
Because
reasonable?
right now, community hasn't had any access on their own.
Correct.
To get into that part of the school.
That is correct. So, my understanding is that took place when the key fob system
What's
came
that?
in, when they moved the weight room, or was it before that? I don't
No,
know.
I was waiting for that, but I think people, I know one person for sure that got a key, assuming he could get to the weight room, and then realized that was a separate part of the building that he didn't
Gotcha.
have access to, so, I think it would be, similar to, you go to DECO or
Mhm.
Hillsborough Event Center and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't see anybody working in there, well, DECO usually has somebody working there, but,
But there are times where the desk isn't staffed there either.
right, okay.
You know, you're off hours, and you go at 5 in the morning, right? You have a key fob to get in there. But I'm sure it's monitored at least through video cameras and such. So, you know, obviously we'll still have that system in place, so perhaps that may mitigate some of those costs. We'll find out.
I know Robbie was real concerned about getting it going, because there's gonna be quite a bit of prep to get that room ready, walls coming out, and he's figured taking, redoing the floor in there and stuff like that, or refinishing the floor, in there too. I know he really requested that we try to get on this as soon as possible. This is something we can, think we can approve pending any major swings into, any major insurance, roadblocks, something like that way.
Yeah, I mean, you can at least start getting the
Then you can
room
get it ready.
We don't need to move things over there yet.
Right.
Maybe some of the students that do work study or whatever with whoever.
Probably the loop training kids.
Because you can lock it up over there just as easy as you can lock it up there in the end, so.
Right. Yeah, I
Chain
think
that door or chain that door, I don't.
Yeah, one or the other. And then that gives you
Especially free labor on it.
your stage access back too, which,
I mean, it's like, we could move it, but we just, maybe would just hold off on until we get all of our,
To the community access.
get the community access.
Robbie did say he'd need about 2 weeks to get the room ready, but he also would need to have a construction dumpster because of what would be coming off those walls, those temporary walls that are in there. And he can't fill that in a regular dumpster, he'd get in trouble.
well, perhaps we can tie that in with the roof.
But he's thinking that's the best idea, to funnel the community that way, right? I mean,
That's been the discussion that we've had is, keeping that end
yeah.
accessible. Yeah, everything's more or less
Yeah.
from the community side, because you can close these doors, and that would keep it all on one side.
And two, we talked about if it'd be worthwhile when we're turning it into a community thing. We just touched base on, would we be interested in taking some of the computers upstairs, moving down for kids to use, because not everybody has a computer at home, that these kids could access through the fob, so you know who's in and out.
Right.
But it's just something to think about. Of course, we can always have problems with
With
it.
parental supervision.
Yes, yeah, something, we'd have to make some type of rule for that, but I do think that would be a good necessity for
Like in a
kids.
community room where there were the other possession room around or something. Correct. Or if we somehow could do a library access.
Yeah.
Which is part of what Valley Innovation's talking about.
And I assume there would be internet site locks that we would already have in place.
Same kind of things we already have.
None of those things are changing currently.
Yep. So does that really need to be a board?
I think we need to
vote?
move forward with it, just
I
to
do
start
too.
doing it. So I don't know that we need action on it per se. I think it's just something that lets you know that we're gonna be moving that direction, so. And we can decide, if there's a major insurance cost, then we can decide what we wanna have, the community have access to.
Did
But at this time,
insurance company give you any idea when they might get back with their quotes or their proposal or?
no, not yet, but I'll make a follow-up this week too, and we'll see. So.
Sorry to interrupt, but city cleanup is in a week. So we need someone to put,
They do construction material.
hey, it's free.
The construction material is good for city.
Yep.
Fabric material or
Next-
something else.
And then
Roof side, may have a dumpster for the roof too.
Yeah.
Transportation committee, probably the biggest update from there is the driver's ed thing. So in pursuing a couple of different leads, I think our best option is going to be entering into a lease with Kelly's Chrysler in Ada. They have done similar things with other school districts. I know, especially like with Monoman, they have a lease program with them where they have a vehicle that they'll put the brake into and we can run it just for that short amount of time. I think that makes probably the most sense and is most cost efficient. Sounds like it's gonna be about $250 per week. And then I think she has 16 students that need to complete that. So I'm gonna meet with Ms. Peterson and figure out exact timing to where we can maximize the shortest number of weeks to get those kids through. And then have our lease piece drawn up through there. So I think that's a good fix, and it does not require us purchasing another vehicle.
Late, we're thinking mid-May through June, if that works in Jody's world.
So,
Because
is that-
June she could do full days, so we thought that maximizes our time better, so maybe mid-May through June.
You have the challenge of the fact that she ends her day the day to Borup, so then you lose your transition time coming back and then getting things started, and so. But, we'll see, obviously midway through May, we can use some of those days. So. Anything else from transportation?
I know that several of the questions that we have cut coming in from the community were related to, are we going to share transportation with Ada Borup, to all of those things, and when we looked at that piece of it, timing-wise, we almost each have to do our individual routes separately, otherwise the school day would be extensively longer. But Brent and Shawn from over in Ada will be working with Shawn to actually look through that a little bit more clearly too and get more specifics. But we almost have to run our own separate routes because of the amount of time during the day.
Ada's transportation director's first name is Shawn.
Yes, there's two Shawns.
Yes,
that.
So, but our transportation is only K through 5. Like, we won't pick up
That is correct.
so if it's family, and they're
They'll
in
have
6th grade, they'll get on a different bus.
Correct.
Okay, but we'll be watching that really closely, right, for our parents and staff?
And we'll likely look to do some kind of a before-school program also, like we have an after-school program.
Yep.
We can use some of those dollars before school too. So if there's a need for some families to have that before-school care,
So you're talking like we could even extend it to the older kids too?
to be at our school before school,
Yeah.
hadn't thought about it. I think that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, good. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
take some of that question out of there. You got, bring your kids over.
And the bus will pick up your kids heading to Ada or wherever at this time.
Right.
We haven't talked about it.
It's a school bus stop, whatever,
Yeah.
but they're in the gym or whatever they are.
There'd be a stop there on the corner anyway, because the apartment building.
Okay. Yeah, we'll bring that forward and see.
Oh, yeah, I took it in a different direction. I thought that's what you were talking about.
It's okay.
We were just talking about little kids.
Okay. Technology committee also met within the last week or so. I was not able to get that one, so Mary, I'll let you take the lead on that one.
A lot of things were, as a communication things about plans Ron has, looking at our budget. We believe we'll still have enough remaining from this year's budget to purchase another 10 to 20 replacement iPads, because our iPads are starting to go a little bit. And then, so that'll still come out of this year's budget. He has been pretty frugal, so that'll still work that way. And then, the other thing we talked about a lot too was, we think we're gonna put Chromebooks into both 4th and 5th grade, with a few iPads on the side to be used with combinations of things that way. I've done some research on that, starting to work with the teachers on that. And then the third piece of that would be make sure that we bring back the training that when we first started that we really make sure that we have as a piece of it also. as to how we can utilize that a little bit better. Brad Michael, what else did we talk about?
The big part of the Chromebook side of it was getting a keyboard in front of kids rather than
Yes.
iPads all the time. That was a big part. One of the discussion items on there were should we take them home, not take them home, that type of thing. Maybe not right away, maybe later, or, but not as a general rule, but that was discussed, nothing firm up there, but.
Maybe occasionally take them home for short projects, rather than probably try and keep them in school.
Yeah, we want to have a little bit better handle on what they have access to that way, so if myself as a teacher would need them to take it home on a certain night, that's when they go home. It's not just that kids automatically take them.
It sounds like the Chromebooks would alleviate some problems, some concerns I've heard from teachers that, they spend a lot of time troubleshooting on their electronics rather than actually
Yeah.
performing functions.
And that's why we're also starting that whole replacement process too, because some of that is the processing speed in those older iPads.
Mhm.
With our Wi-Fi network it's taking some time that way, so that's why we want to also continue doing that.
Okay.
So starting with 10 to 20 at a time and hopefully doing that every year for that K through 3.
Okay.
We're gonna have a bunch of excess ones after this year?
Chromebooks
Yes.
or iPads?
Or both, all, everything?
Yes, Chromebooks, we're also going to, any teachers who would like to use them or support staff who needs them for educational purposes, we'll absolutely let them have one too. The iPads, I think that they're gonna start getting to be, the speeds are gonna be a problem. So at some point, they're not gonna be worth a lot, so we'll let Ron make some of those
Trade
decisions.
ordering or anything.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll have Ron checking that, we didn't talk about that.
Software will run on them.
Yeah. Processing speeds and.
Once you do an update, they're done.
Or else they just quit supporting them.
The technology budget, Ron figured that it was half of what?
He thinks he can get by with about half of what we had this year going forward, especially for next year, because we'll be able to take some of the newer machines from here and do some of the replacements that he's done. In past years, when he's purchased them through Computers for Schools. So he's thinking he can reduce his part of that budget for this year to about half of it.
And I've discussed, from a personnel standpoint as well, a reduction, and I think we've, come to some decisions there, so that'll be reflected moving forward.
I know we've been saying that this building's gonna stay the same, so the funding for the state level, because they basically just pay our internet access, right? And that's all seems to be on the up and up, it's gonna, I know it's an in and an out, basically.
More or less. It's an E-rate.
That was the other thing that, I didn't know that either, but we run that school out of this school, basically, the internet, out of Hendrum is run through here, so.
The telephone comes
Also
into
telephone.
here and it's relayed to Hendra.
It's a great idea.
And on the flip side then too, we also have, we're gonna need, multiple phone lines available for, fire alarm, the alarm notifications, and then obviously internet with the video cameras and such, so, that's anticipated that we're gonna maintain that.
I knew that was a kind of an in and out, I just wanted to make sure it was, but if it runs through here, I think we'll have zero problem.
That's what I've got.
Anything more for Shawn?
Yeah, that's a good point. So some musical instruments, we've got a number of items. And from my understanding, Ms. Gronigal has a list of things that would be in good repair that we'd like to continue to hold on to, that could be usable. But then there's also a fairly sizable list of items that are in disrepair, or just really not usable. So there is an individual, to my understanding, who comes and would make an offer on some of the unusable equipment. So to that end, I think we've given the go-ahead that if there are items that she feels that they are really, there is no real value to any other school or individual, that, to give her the go-ahead to, get a quote from him to, claim those as on a surplus kind of basis. There, I don't remember exactly what those items were, but she'll get a price from him. He only makes trips through this area every so often.
Once or twice a year is all.
Yeah, so, and he's coming up here next week, so.
And Dorinda is a piece of all of this too. She's been a part of the conversation and knows
Yep.
what Heidi's talking about, so.
Yeah,
As to
there's
what
been
she wants to keep.
Good communication all around, and we wanna make sure that anything that is usable, that could be good to use for any of our students, we wanna be able to hold on to that.
Or sellable for
Right.
better down the road,
If there are things that we don't need, but could be,
sold to another school.
Right,
sold
exactly.
To interested parties.
Was there parts that Dorinda should get rid of too, or?
Well, I think she's a part of
Well,
that
yeah.
conversation.
Well,
Yep.
I'm just curious if we have
Yep.
that person in.
Yep.
all
there
the
might be
time.
things
Now's
down
the
there to
time.
get rid of as well.
So,
We can check on that end as well. Yep.
Yeah, I would think that, Vandermeer has a pretty wide assortment of things that he had left, that other schools would be interested in.
That's what we
Right.
think. There's almost 3 groups here.
Yeah, that's why I said, we don't wanna get rid of something to right, a salvage dealer basically that, would be useful for either our own students or for another school that they'd be interested in. So she's got essentially 3 different piles of things that they're sorted into, 3 categories. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you, Shawn.